Okay. Counter-Strike, obviously the game series on PC, but there actually might be a few people who have been living under rocks for like the last decade that may not know about Counter-Strike. Can you just do the summary?
Well, so Counter-Strike as a whole is sold over 25 million copies. It's been the #1 PC shooter for the past 12 years, and it's because it's really clean, competitive. You start each round, you're equal. It's the better guy's going to win.
And you're going into Global Offensive, taking a lot of community feedback. Can you sort of walk us through exactly what you're getting back from them?
Yeah, so there's a couple things we want to do with Counter-Strike Global Offensive. One of them is we want to be able to help join the, on the PC there's the 1.6 and the Counter-Strike source communities. They're kind of separate communities. We want to join them by going to both of them and having them give us the kind of the both worlds and join them into one game. And it's just not there, so we have an open beta going on in the PC, and it's just not their subjective feedback, but also the data they drive by playing a bunch. Let's just be able to make some choices and analyze what's going on. We actually have a psychologist on hand who helps us kind of sort through the data and goes, oh, here's the heat maps or death maps for, winning teams. Here's it is for losing teams. What are they doing different? What's happening? Is there something they're exploiting, or is there something going on here? So we're going to take all of that and we're going to move it over to the XBLA. And so, in Counter-Strike Go on the 360 will be the best version. It's going to look the best. It's going to be downloadable, so it'll be easy to get in. And we've also added some stuff that the community's done on the PC side as well with game modes. So like today we're showing was gun game on the PC, and we've called it Arsenal mode, kind of a little nod to the original version of it. So it's Arsenal mode demolition, and it's really fast, really intense. We were just playing some rounds there, and it's like within the first 10 seconds of the round, you're in action. There's stuff going on. You have no free movement. You have no 10 minutes of running. It's instantly you're on. You have to be thinking about what you're doing.
Well, sort of just to backtrack up to you talking about all the data you guys are getting in. You guys are old hands at this. Is there an expectation that you sort of can guess exactly what you'll be getting back, or does the community still surprise you with exactly their play style?
Well, so we wanted to be able to try some experiments that we always wondered about. And it's really hard currently in the 1.6 or CSS communities because they're very set in their rules and they've learned to play that way, and I understand that, right? It's like all of a sudden if you change the rules of basketball. And so we wanted to create a new game so that we could experiment and try some different things. And the feedback's really interesting and it's really clear. It's funny of the people who haven't played versus people who have. You can kind of tell almost with what they're saying, because they'll say like, oh, there's no recoil. Oh, there is recoil, right? And then the people who are playing is like, well, there's too much, so we actually tone down the recoil. And then we'll look at that and we'll say, oh, you know what, if you're just holding down the trigger, you might as well run while you do that because your chances of hitting something are about equal, right? So you want to still tap, you still want to go into it, and if for the uninitiated CS player, if all this sounds scary, don't worry. We have skill-based matchmaking. We're gonna wind you into this. You're be playing with people with the same skill level of you, and then as you get better, you'll be playing against better players.
And how does that sort of skill system work? Does it just measure by wins, by defeats during each match?
Yeah, so we're using the ELO system based on wins and losses. And so, over time and kind of as running kind of, I think it's the last set of series of games, it'll be able to influence on how you're going to be ranked and matched inside of that, right? And so then you also have social mode, where if you don't want to be playing that kind of game, you don't want to worry about your ranking, you just want to hang out with some friends and shoot around, you can go join that way.
And you're talking about feedback again. Obviously, if you're saying about some people are coming in from one side, other people are coming the other. Where do you actually draw the line as a developer to go, okay, we understand that feedback, but we know this is what's right?
Yeah, so I think if you look at like wall spamming as something that you'd see on 1.6, what wall spamming is if you can shoot through walls. Well, in 1.6, you could shoot through this bank and it would hit the guy on the other side. And so what happens then is in tournaments, players feel the need to keep shooting the wall here, then I'm going to go shoot the wall here, then I'm going to shoot the wall here. And it's like one of those, we're making them do that, but they don't want to do that. They would rather be engaged in the enemy. And so we're making it more realistic, but not really. I mean, it's still, you can shoot through walls, but it's like you should be able to look at a wall or look at some piece of material and understand if your bullet can go through that or not. And so we're kind of reining that back in.
And talking about other stuff, we've just seen the map, we played through the sort of dockside map. Can you talk us through the other maps people should expect to see when the game's released?
So for all of this mode, demolition mode, Arsenal mode demolition, you're going to see tight small maps. So we have like bank, We have another house, and they're all about, if you just moved a few feet each way, you'd be able to see your enemy right away. And then we also have another mode based on gun game, and that's Arsenal mode, Arms Race. And that's kind of the classic, you shoot a guy, you get a new gun, and you can actually respawn. And that's really just chaotic, crazy. You go through all the guns, and then you end with a knife round. And then we also have the classic Counter-Strike maps, and you'll see things like Dust, DE Dust, or WC Dust 2, Inferno, and we've actually made some changes to those. We've adjusted those based on some player feedback, some of the pro feedback as well. So we've actually had pros in the office giving us feedback. And then we also have some of the hostage maps, so you'll get to see things like Office and Italy come back.
I mean, how long do you guys sink into developing each map in turn? Are we talking like months on end, perfecting every little part of it?
Oh yeah, so there's the graphic update that we'll go through, and then once we do that, graphics actually affect gameplay. I know people like to say, just update it with new graphics, but it actually affects gameplay. And so we have to take a look at what we're doing there, what changes we're making. And then we've actually had some pros run through the maps for us. They'll give us feedback. They'll look for little things we may have missed or why something was important and that we've changed a little bit and we'll have to readjust it. And then we'll bring it out to the community. And the minute we give it out to the community, we're gonna get more minutes of play testing than we ever could ourselves. And they'll instantly be able to, it's literally like, instantly some guy is gonna try something we never thought to try. And you would be like, oh, this is so obvious, why didn't you fix this? Well, because you can't jump on every single little, right, there's just this thing that happens that instantly these guys can figure out. And it's not the one guy always figuring out the same thing, it's one guy out of a million people finding it out. And so that's really great for that. And they give us that feedback, and then we update the maps, let them play it again, they give us some more feedback.
So in a sense, it's never ending. There's no drawing a line under any map.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where you want to say, this is maps ready for competition, we can release it out that way, and people can play it, and they have an expectation of how it's going to play. But even then, there's probably some tweaks along the days that we do. And one of the things I think that's been controversial that we've added is fog. And people think fog isn't for performance. Fog is actually for your visual performance, of your ability to pick out targets at a mid-distance. So as we add detail to the game, it's really easy to lose the enemy into the background. And so we actually have a little bit of fog hanging out there to kind of have the enemy pop up off of that.
And what's the sort of, have you guys got a support plan post-launch for this? Obviously enough, the Xbox Live Arcade side is going to be slightly different than PC.
Well, so, for the PC players, they'll be able to do all the modding and all the craziness they've always been able to do in Counter-Strike. For the 360, PC, and everyone else, we are going to have some DLC come out post-launch. We don't really worry about that yet. We kind of pencil it in and say, okay, we want to do this, and then we work on it once we're done. Which is one of the reasons why Valve DLC may be a little late, but it's never like, oh, we just pulled this off from the main game and now we're going to give it to you.
And what about the argument that you could just release Counter-Strike and it's going to sell 1 million copies? You don't have to work at this, It's going to sell by the name alone.
I think it's been really fun actually on this project of taking a look at the problem we have, and that's the 1.6 and CSS communities not joining together. And what can we do to do that? And then once we start doing that, we realize how much better of a game we can make for the 360 players. We're actually doing this now in Left 4 Dead 2, where we have what's going to be the Coldstream DLCs actually getting played by the PC players already. They're giving us a bunch of feedback. We're fixing map exploits and bugs, so that by the time it comes on the 360, they're getting a much better experience than they would have done it if we hadn't done it that way.
Now, you say about obviously enough gameplay, it's very fast, very quick, so 1 minute 30 down. What's actually just talking about the actual, can you talk about the file size for the actual download at all?
There's a 2 gig cap, and we'll be under that.
Okay.
Squeaking by, probably.
Well, I was going to say that obviously enough coming on to the console market, FPSs and all that, you've got competition out there, but if you're trying to basically pitch it to a player of a COD or a Battlefield, why should they shift over to Counter-Strike?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's necessarily shifting over, it's complementary. And I love those games, I play them to death, and they're really great at what they do, and there's a really great experience that you have with them. Counter-Strike, the minute you jump into a match, you have the same weapon the other guy has. It's how good you are, how well you are able to execute your plan, how you're able to execute how you control your player. And so that's what I think has had it last all these years in the PC, is it's always maintained that really clean air of competition. And so, if you're a really great COD player, if you're a really great Battlefield 3 player, and you think you can own some guys on Counter-Strike, give it a shot. Download Counter-Strike Go, it'll be a download, it'll be easy.
You say, like you said, Counter-Strike has been going for years now. So why do you think it's such an enduring game series?
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like sports. Basketball doesn't change every year. Baseball doesn't change every year. Soccer doesn't change every year. They may have some adjustments to the rules, but the base game's there, and that lets people get really good at it. That lets them hone their skill and be like, we bring a pro in and we show him a change of Inferno. He knows every inch of that map and every inch of how that's going to impact him. And I think allowing players to live in a space like that without changing the rules out from underneath them for an extended period lets them get that level of being really good at it. And so that's what we've made sure to do with Counter-Strike Go is there's a really high skill ceiling. The really good players are able to be really good at it. And that's, as we do that though, of course we have to worry that we're going to make it too hard for new players, and that's why we've lowered the skill ceiling, give you an entry, give you a way where you're not having to compete with those players.
Well, I think that's about all the time we got for, so just say thank you very much indeed. Look forward to playing it when it comes out.
Thanks for coming out.
Cheers.